Here are some notes that include some stats and facts about some players I feel like are good buys in Dynasty fantasy football leagues. Marquise Hollywood Brown reunited with his former college quarterback from Oklahoma, Kyler Murray, in Arizona this past season. Kyler played weeks 1 through 9 and week 12. Hollywood played weeks 1 through 6 and also returned week 12. No D-Hop may have impacted these numbers, and DeAndre Hopkins might not be back next season, but in the games that Hollywood played with Kyler Murray, he averaged 10.28 targets, 7 receptions, 75.85 receiving yards, 0.43 touchdowns, and 17.16 fantasy points. Desmond Ridder has been reported as the expected Falcons starter for 2023. In Ridder's 4 starts, so weeks 15 through 18, Drake London averaged 9 targets, 6.25 receptions, 83.25 receiving yards, 13.58 fantasy points. There was no Kyle Pitts during the span, but London had a 29.4% target share on the year, which was number 5 for wide receivers in 2022. I don't think his cost is anything like fellow rookies Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave in Dynasty, who were drafted after him. Rashad Bateman opened up the season scoring touchdowns in back-to-back weeks, 13.9 and 20.8 fantasy points in those 2 games. He had 108 receiving yards in week 2. He only played 50% or more of the snaps in 4 games due to injuries, and has been reported that he's doing much better in his recovery process. Wide receiver target competition for 2023. It's not good. It's Devin Duvernay and Nelson Aguilar. The Lamar Jackson turmoil plus the lack of games in 2022 creates a buy low potential for a team's wide receiver 1, who was a 2021 first-round investment, ranked by many as the clear wide receiver 2 in that class. Miles Sanders had a career year in 2022 for the Eagles in rushing. He had 1,269 rushing yards and 11 rushing touchdowns. Sanders is now on a rebuilding Carolina Panthers team that ran the ball 483 times in comparison to passing 457 times. Obviously, that can change with a new quarterback. In 2022, there was 4 Carolina running backs that accounted for 81 targets. Sanders had 50 receptions his rookie season, but he never hit 30 after that. So the hope here is that he gets a lot of volume, including some potential passing work. David Njoku played weeks 14 through 18 with Deshaun Watson. During this span, he averaged 5.6 targets, 0.5 touchdowns, and he had games of 18.7 and 14.2 fantasy points. Njoku has had 6 games over 70 receiving yards the last 2 seasons. He's finished as a top 12 fantasy tight end in 2 seasons, and Cleveland is reported to want to throw the ball more. Jerry Jeudy in 2022 averaged 17.07 fantasy points per game in games he played 60% plus of the snaps. In his final 7 full games, Jeudy averaged 8.43 targets, 6.57 receptions, 88.14 receiving yards, 0.57 touchdowns, and 19.37 fantasy points. Jeudy had 2.07 20-plus receiving yard plays per game. There's been rumors of him being traded, along with him never having a true big breakout, so it's a good time to buy. Daniel Jones is coming off of a career season with Brian Daboll in his first year. Career highs in passing yards, completion percentage, yards per attempt, lowest amount of his turnovers. Player Profiler ranked him number 5 in accuracy rating, number 1 in true completion percentage, 18.4 fantasy points per game with a weak wide receiver room. Darren Waller is added, Saquon Barkley's back, Paris Campbell's another guy added. There's a potential for them to draft another wide receiver. Go buy Daniel Jones. Deontay Johnson has had 144-plus targets for 3 straight seasons and has been top 10 in routes run for 2 straight seasons. Despite being top 10 in red zone targets, Deontay scored 0 touchdowns in 2022. Pittsburgh only threw 12 total passing touchdowns. Deontay Johnson also had career highs that could have been an impact in air yards and his average depth of his target. Dip in his fantasy points per game for 2022 for a guy that's been consistently earning targets through his career and can take a step forward in an offense that should be better in the passing department makes him a buy. Then my last guy here is Jahan Dotson. Only played in 12 games in 2022 on a team that featured Terry McLaurin and may or may not have Sam Howell as the leader in 2023. In the 8 games Dotson played 70% plus of the snaps, he averaged 6.6 targets, 56.6 2 receiving yards, 0.75 touchdowns, at 14.04 fantasy points, despite Player Profiler ranking him number 91 in target accuracy and number 78 in catchable target rate. This was a 2022 first-round investment by Washington. I'm big on Dotson.